Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of a really cool, really amazing podcast called Beyond the Bottom Line, powered by GiveSuite. And this podcast is something very special, where we're sitting down with nonprofit leaders, executive directors, admins, pretty much everybody who's in your organization that makes everything go. And we're going to hear their story, understand why they got involved in the nonprofit space, and hear about how the different systems that they've employed to work with them inside their nonprofit really transform the way they run their business and their organization. And this is a really awesome episode. Kicking off episode number 1 is actually user number 2 of ours at GiveSuite, Ronnie Bilodeau. Ronnie is in charge, is the head now of a wonderful organization called. And Thank You Life works with people all across the country dealing with psychedelic healing therapies and helping you get the treatment that you need where you need it most to be able to help heal and grow. And I always had fun hanging out with Ronnie when we first met him and the team at Thank You Life. And when I reached out to him about this, I said, I would love to get you on this show. I think it'd be great to hear your story. And he said, yeah, no doubt. So here we are today. So before we dive into the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to this on our YouTube channel, on the GiveSuite YouTube channel. And as I always say on my other show, nobody cares about me. Let's talk about you. Ronnie, welcome to the podcast. What's up?
Thanks so much, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. So first of all, again, it's a real pleasure to have you on. And I really enjoyed when we first met. I think you guys actually came to us for Google ads. And we were running your Google Grant ads. And then somehow it flipped into you signing up for our SaaS and being like user number 2 of ours.
Yeah.
So how did that whole thing happen? Because first of all, how did you get into the nonprofit space?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first nonprofit that I've worked for over the last 3 years. I have a background with doing all kinds of digital marketing, graphic design, web design, all of that. I was mostly working in the neuro rehab space, so brain injuries, mental health conditions, and all that. So I've been in the space for a while, but then eventually people I worked with in the past had started this nonprofit, and people I respected and really loved working with previously. And the mission was so aligned with some issues that I've seen. We have a crisis of mental health, depression, anxiety, PTSD here in the States, and of course, around the world too. And I mean, the truth is that what's available through the insurance models, what they call the standard of care, just isn't cutting it for most people. And there are these alternative modalities, psychedelic-assisted therapy, but it's all cash pay, out of pocket, thousands of dollars for people. So you can already think about who could actually afford that and how the people who need it most, who are in these traumatized childhoods and on these rough urban, upbringings, they have no way to pay for this. So what we do is we step in and pay for that. So it was just an easy transition. The people that I knew were creating this org back in 21, 22. And yeah, they needed somebody with my skill set. And it was such an easy yes for me.
Nice. And it's funny because usually when it comes to nonprofits, like finding a guy like you who's like a marketer, designer, like jack of all trades in the creative space is a real hard to find. And you came in there and you did it. Because I mean, I love looking at your stuff. I get your emails because when we were testing stuff with you, I get your emails and then I see your website and it's really, really nice. Like,
thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. It was cool because, what the leadership team and the board have reflected, they had this idea, but what I did is I actually brought it to life in the not physical, you know what I mean? In the digital space, having this digital website, this space to land and the branding. I feel like that's the point where it really gets legs, So I was so grateful to be able to step in and just, I saw it. I just, they explained the vision and the mission and I saw it all. So it just kind of came through. It's really cool.
No, for sure. And it's interesting too, because a lot of the times, because now you're in charge, kind of like from last conversation we had, you're kind of in charge of the organization. And
we have 2 co-executive directors right now, but I work, I'm basically the third kind of leader of the org right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I was saying is like a lot of the times I deal with a lot of these organizations where I get on the phone with them and the person who's in charge is really more of the dreamer, more of the impact person going out there trying to be on the ground saving the whales versus someone who needs to be in the office and dealing with all the day-to-day, dealing with all the marketing and stuff. So how did your skill set really help you become one of those leaders in the organization? Because you seem like you do both.
Yeah, I definitely know the space quite well. I've opened several ketamine assisted psychotherapy clinics and helped kind of run those programs in the past. So I know the industry that we're in very well. Some pieces it probably better than anybody else on the team. So when I was naturally being asked for advice about direction of the organization, it just became clear that my input was valued, which felt really great. So it just naturally became, I was initially put into marketing and operations, two pretty different silos. Like obviously there's some connections, but I was really running both of those things. So handling the high level, how are we going to carry out our programming? How are we going to do this mission? And then the day-to-day kind of minutia. So yeah, it was just a kind of a natural progression where I just kept taking on more and more and just creating value for the org. And it was recognized by the board and by the leaders at the time. So yeah.
No, that's what's up. And it's funny that you said that you were dealing with marketing and operations and you're using a product like GiveSuite that is a marketing and operations platform all in one.
Exactly.
So there you go. So how did that play into your success and your growth with Thank You Life?
Yeah. And I imagine a lot of other startups and nonprofits, whatever the industry is, they hit a similar kind of challenge that we did where it was a catch-22 where we need more money to come in, but we don't have the staff or the money to pay people to do the things that will bring the money in, i.e. marketing and just making our operations more efficient. So being able to go from kind of working through piecemeal CRMs, we didn't have one kind of home for everything that we were doing. So we just had all these kind of dispersed operations running and it was not very efficient. But again, you start where you start. And that's kind of where it was when I came in. And then, yeah, naturally just talking to your team and getting the Google ads up and running was great. For people that don't know, Google has this program where I believe it's up to $10,000 a month they give to nonprofits who qualify so that you can run ads, direct traffic to your site and have, just more attention on your mission. And you guys helped us set that up with these different funnels. And so that was a great piece of our marketing. But then you also mentioned, hey, we're developing this custom made CRM for nonprofits because there's not really something like that out in the industry. So would you be willing to try it, test it out, let us know? And we loved it right away because the main issue was not having enough staff and not enough hours. We needed to make things more efficient. We needed to automate both our operations and our marketing so that we could actually move forward without just completely draining our operations account, basically our salary account. So those really are the two arms. We have all of our funnels with email drip campaigns set up where it's basically just somebody opts in with their email, whatever the funnel entry point may be, and then it's no touch until they make a donation 7, 8, 9 emails later. It's just kind of a gradual system. And your team inspired how we're running that because that's how you all set it up. We kind of just expanded and tailored some of them to different campaigns. But then on the operations side, so something unique that we do as a nonprofit, we are not actually the ones carrying out the service. We're not the therapists giving the care to the people in need. We are the ones funding it and supporting the therapists so they can stay in business because it's not a lucrative thing that they're doing. So in order to make sure that we're only working with the best doctors and therapists in the country, we have a pretty intense vetting process where we have them fill out an application, we exchange some emails, we have them jump on a call so we can actually meet them. So it's not just this kind of catch-all. We really work with the best of the best. And before we were doing actual emails, I was having to sit and type to the people every single time they would send an application. I'd have to coordinate a time to meet with them and back and forth maybe 5 or 6 times. Finally, we schedule a call, send them a link, and it was kind of a nightmare. And as we were scaling and people were finding out about us because of some conferences and podcasts, I was buried. So then we actually created an automation sequence. They fill out the application that we built through GiveSuite, embedded on our site. It automatically sends them the emails that I would normally send. And since GiveSuite has a Calendly type calendar scheduler, the link to my schedule is in that email. So I don't have to coordinate times and dates with them. They just choose a time. It is a game changer. So that's one piece of it. I would say what we call our provider network or the service network.
Nice.
We have that now just completely self-running, and we meet with the people. We have weekly calls now where we do group onboarding instead of one-on-one. And it's basically no touch for us, but just get to spend an hour with them on a Zoom call instead of 20 emails leading up to it. It's so much more, it's just so much better. So that's just one example of how we were able to take our provider network of therapists and doctors doing this kind of psychedelic therapy. We were stuck in the 20-30 range for so long because I didn't have the bandwidth to bring them on. We're up at about 180 now. And this is just in the last year and a half. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know how we would have done it without the GiveSuite automation and the calendar, the scheduler, all of those things. We probably stuck at 60
crazy
now.
Cool. So you've 4 or 5 times your growth there, more.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. It's funny because I always used to say to to people, people ask how do your users like it. I said, well, I don't hear from them, which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. Exactly.
I would ping I would ping you, I would email you just to check in, because that's part of our whole philosophy too. And that's what a lot of nonprofits don't realize when it comes to the marketing side of it. Just be in touch with people, be on top of them, see what's going on. So I like to be in touch with people, and I never heard from him. All right, cool. He must be happy. And then, card keeps charging every month. All right, great. Awesome. So, wonderful. But that's amazing that and I feel like a lot of nonprofits need to hear that, whether you're using our system, whether you're using something else, but the fact that you can leverage the power of automation to literally you went from 20, 30 clinics that you were working with to helping to now over 180, which is huge. And these people are all getting money. So then the impact is greater, because then the people that you're giving money to are now able to help more people. And so you're just grown exponentially.
In our model, it is interesting, and might not be apples to apples for some people listening, but hopefully it's at least inspirational. As we reach more clinics in different cities, somebody in New York City that we just started working with, for example, they could be connected to some pretty big money and philanthropists who want to then, it basically expands our net of reach. Yeah. So being able to onboard them was the first step in doing that. And again, we couldn't have done that so efficiently.
But so going back to the operations side, putting when you have the right systems and you have the right tools, whether it's GiveSuite, whether it's something else, but when you have the right systems and tools in place, it makes your operations so much easier, because you got nonprofits in general are stretched thin, like you were saying, you guys literally had no capacity to do this. You're spinning your wheels. So how important is automation? How important is having the right systems in place and building out the right SOPs and building out the right systems for an organization? Because you guys are small. You guys are 3 or 4 people now.
Yeah. We have 5 now, but again, very small. And I can humbly say that we do the work of maybe 20 or 30 people would be needed to do 30 years ago or something, without all this automation and just the tech that we have and the way that we've been able to adapt. It's incredible what 5 people can get done in 2025, 2026, pretty soon here. The automation has been huge. And I think when some people hear automation, they may think that that's cold. We're not, personal touch isn't there. It's automated emails. That's not the case. We can actually personalize quite a bit in what we're doing. And it's a little bit of time on the front end to really think through the experience of the person on the other end of it. But again, we've tweaked things over the last year and a half, 2 years, but not very much. It's worked. So we kind of just put our kind of heads together in the beginning and walked through what the different automations, because we have many different automations running for different audiences, potential donors, people who might just want to follow our newsletter, people who are actually in need of mental health care, providers who are providing the care. So we have a lot of different arms running, and yeah, it's huge. And we can actually personalize a lot of that. We can choose who the emails are coming from so that they can reply to it. It's beautiful. We've triaged so much of our incoming messaging to the people, just completely automated.
Well, and one of the cool things that I like about GiveSuite is, and when we're talking about communications, is that you guys probably get a lot of social messages, and
Yep.
you get and so you can connect all your DMs to GiveSuite and have one centralized place. So like when you're an organization that is more on the social outreach, probably from a lot of, not maybe the clinics, but also from people who are looking for help, you probably get a lot of social messages. No?
We do, definitely. And it's nice that, so with GiveSuite, you have basically the person's contact and you can see their history with you, like any good CRM would show you their contact history. And that includes those social messages. So it's cool to see somebody's entry point could be an Instagram message, and now they've exchanged 5-6 emails with somebody, and now they'll make a donation. It's an interesting place with everything in it. So, and just for context, like we were paying, as our email list was growing through Constant Contact, we kind of hit a spike because of a conference we went to there were tens of thousands of people there, and they were all turned on by our mission. And we had to keep paying more and more through Constant Contact as our list grew. And I think we would have been paying more for Constant Contact a month than we do for GiveSuite. And we have all of our email in there. We don't have to pay for like Hootsuite or a social media platform because we can do it through GiveSuite. And then there's also the CRM capability. So yeah, that was huge for us to be able to just jump into one cohesive program that communicated with the other systems that we're using, like receiving donations and all that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. It's just so nice to have everything in one place, because it's just a nightmare to log into 4 different sites to do things.
No, for sure. And especially when your time is limited, when you're dealing with, a million different things on your plate, like, why do you want to waste more time? It's all about efficiency.
Yeah.
And I feel like nonprofits, a lot of organizations, again, coming from your role in the leadership space and in the marketing space, like the efficiency side of it is key, because there's only so many hours in the day. You guys are 5 people, and when you can have everything centralized in one location, make your life easier, then you have less headache on your head.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering, what advice, as we end off this awesome podcast, this kickoff episode, what advice would you give to people who are looking to, advance within, or like do kind of on the same trajectory as you were, or anybody who's in your position right now? Like, what advice would you give them on how to get themselves more organized, run more efficiently and effectively?
Yeah, I think it's a relatively simple idea, and I know I'm not the first person to recommend this, but just consult with your team and just ask where their bottlenecks are. Like, where is your time being spent that could potentially be streamlined a bit? Where are you spending so much time that creates a level of stress in you too? I think that's an important thing that maybe isn't talked about enough, especially staff members that are stretched thin in this space, in the nonprofit space. Where's your stress coming from that's making your tasks harder to do? And that's really what we did as a team. And we were able to identify a good handful of, call them stress points, bottlenecks, I think is a pretty good way to put it, and figure out, okay, how would we alleviate that in a perfect situation? How could we, and basically all of our answers kind of came to GiveSuite. So it's whether it's GiveSuite or just another piece of tech that's available now, be open to adapting. I think that's the biggest piece of advice. Like, identify your challenge points and just be willing to adapt or try out something new. Like, try out a new piece of tech that could consolidate and streamline what you're trying to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Ronnie, thank you so much for joining me on this first episode. If anybody would like to learn more about Thank You Life, I'm going to put a link on the post to their donate page. If you want to connect with their mission, you want to learn more, you want to subscribe to the newsletter, just really be a part of their organization, because they are doing some wonderful things. And as you said, when we first met, they were still trying to figure themselves out. And I'm happy that we've had a massive impact on not just your marketing, like when we set up those boilerplate funnels for you and how you've tweaked them and scaled them, but through the whole system in general. I really love seeing the progress, and in general, I love seeing the progress of organizations that, you know, are really pushing and really trying to grow, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about: elevate and accelerate. So, Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm going to be posting this up on all major podcasting platforms, on the GiveSuite YouTube channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the show, and we'll catch you next time on Beyond the Bottom Line.